Welcome to episode 144 of Broad Street Hustle. I'm your host, Tommy Nanny, bringing you an exciting show tonight. We're going to recap the Eagles Washington Commanders game. We'll also recap the Kansas City Chiefs Buffalo Bills game and take the conversation, not really in depth about next week around the Super Bowl, but maybe gloss over it and bring up a couple things here and there. Let's go around the horn. I got Jason Sayeta with me, as always.
Hey, Tom, what's going on?
Jason, how are you? And I got Jimmy the Chalk.
Good evening.
Hello, no Christopher Michael Meeker this evening, so he'll be back tomorrow for our Super Bowl preview show. And as always, this episode is brought to you by Giovannina's Pizza. You tried the rest, I'll try the best. And I'm sure good old Giovannina will have a special for the Super Bowl next week. As we get that information, we will share. All right, let's jump into it. Eagles, Washington Commanders. It was somewhat of a game, I would say, early. I mean, score-wise, it never really necessarily had that feel-wise. We'll get into it. I think right off the bat, Washington went for it on. We talked about it. Washington goes for 2 fourth downs and converts them. We said that could be, I could skew the game, make it a little more random. And then a 4th and 2 from the 18, it decides to kick the field goal, and you're just like, okay. And then it's kind of led into more of then obviously Barkley scores on the first play for the Birds, and it's 7-3 instead of a different score. And it, obviously Eagles never gave up the lead. But Jason, what's your thoughts? Obviously, everybody knows 50 was a 55-23.
23, I think maybe. Yeah, 23.
So complete annihilation of another NFC Championship game for the Eagles that they haven't come within 13 points of a loss, I don't think, in their history.
Yeah.
But yeah, what's your thoughts, Jason?
Yeah, I mean, I never got the feeling that it was a game. So the first drive, Washington, it was an 18-play drive, and they didn't even get past the 20-yard line, right? So, I mean, it was a good drive, but it's like, they're dinking and dunking down the field. Daniels is still dangerous. And
They dinked and dunked
the whole
till
game.
the fourth quarter, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it was kind of weird.
Yeah, and then we all know defensively. I mean, they're the Washington Generals on defense, basically. So that was the first play of the game. Barkley takes it 70 yards or whatever it was. So I never thought it was a game. Washington had 4 turnovers, little fumble luck for the Eagles. 3 fumbles, they got them all. Washington didn't recover any. The 1 interception was late in the game, so that it was a turnover, but that was late in the game. So you can't really kill Daniels on that. Again, the Eagles took care of the ball. I heard an interesting stat on Hurts, which, he had a great game, and obviously he's the next Johnny Unitas and all now from everybody I hear. But, he did not throw one ball between the numbers the whole game. Not one pass. Is that insane? That's just crazy. It's just crazy that they were able to score 50 points with him not throwing one pass between.
Yeah, I mean they didn't really run too many slants or anything like that. I
Nothing.
mean most of what they ran. I mean, it's not like it was there and he didn't take it. The game plan wasn't there.
Don't make them throw the ball over the middle. So it works against the Washington Redskins or whatever you want to call them, and whoever else they played. Remains to be seen if that's going to work against Spagnuolo. So, but I mean, what could you say? The Eagles walked all over them. I don't think any of us expected any different. I think we all.
I predicted a 17-point win. So yeah,
game. So no surprise to me. But I mean, there we have it.
Yeah, I think you're a little unfair on Hurts on this. I mean, I'm not a big Hurts fan. The guy played well. I mean, I'm not gonna.
Listen, he
I'm
played
not gonna
well.
call him out when he don't.
I'm not saying he didn't, but he did not throw one pass over the middle. I just think that's or between the numbers. I shouldn't say over the middle. Between the numbers. I'm not taking anything away. I'm just saying maybe that works against the Commanders, but I don't know, going forward how much that's going to work.
Yeah, I think they haven't asked much for Hurts. This game they asked a little more. I thought Kellen Moore was everybody wanted to kill him. I thought he was phenomenal
He's going
in
to get
his
a
game
job offer the game. He's
in his
going
game
to
plan.
be.
I mean, right off the bat, first play, I think it was like a little play action that to Goddard. It was just Hurts through the guys that were open. I mean, almost all game. The AJ Brown touchdown, maybe he had to sneak it into a window, like a quick window, but that's still a pretty easy pass for a quarterback. He didn't throw it to AJ when he had one-on-one coverage, where that's where he could have kind of throw a 50-50 ball, more like 75-25 ball. But yeah, Hurts had kind of easy pass. One thing with Hurts, I thought he did very well this week, and maybe it's the lack of Washington having a good. He avoided the sack, so many times where he threw the ball away, he was able to get out of that little bit of pressure and was able to throw it away. And there was one, I think he threw it away. He got out of it, threw it away, and it was like 3rd and 10. I think the next play was like the Barkley necessary roughness penalty or something. There was something where his throwaway and then the Eagles benefit. It might have been the Devontae Smith PI. And then it led to a touchdown. So like he takes a sack there, or he does some. So I give him credit there. He not only protected the ball well, but he protected negative plays very well. And that's not always easy to do. Again, it could have been because the pressure Washington had it was never overwhelming pressure. It wasn't like St. Louis LA where they're in a couple times quick. But no, I mean, I thought Hurts was phenomenal. Barkley, I mean, the dude is just like unbelievable. I couldn't believe you're watching that first play, and it's just unbelievable. What else they got here? So I have a couple questions, maybe a question after that is about Hurts, but I'll let Chalky chime in. A couple big plays that kind of were the game, but I'll let Chalky go.
So one other thing I thought Hurts did really well is when he had a rollout and on the run, like he made it a couple really good throws on the run. I mean, two of them were incomplete passes. One was Brown didn't come down with it, and the pass interference call against Smith, like Smith really should have had it. He was getting mugged, but he still could have had it, and like he put it right there on the run in the end zone. So he was on point, and I'm probably the biggest Hurts stan on this podcast, even though I'm not as big of a fan that I was. But I mean, the fact of the matter is, you could say, well, will he be able to do this? If they didn't ask him to do it, he did what he was asked. And like, if guys are wide open all day, then if he throws guys open or not doesn't matter. And you hope that's what they can play call, but I'm not necessarily going to expect it against Kansas City. But I saw when the Baldinger broke down, it may be like one of the first times this year I can remember him like throwing a guy open where like he's loading up the throw before Brown makes his break to the sideline. And so like anticipation, and it was right there on the money. It was a good throw. If he can do that, then he can take that next step as a quarterback. So he shows glimmers here and there, but it was probably his second best. I mean, I would say the Super Bowl was probably his best game as a quarterback, and this is probably number 2. So we'll see. Never really thought it was much of a game. Obviously, it got a little dicey with the 4th down call, 4th and 5, where they went for it, only up 2, and Hurts put it right there. Great throw to Brown, dropped it in between 2 receivers on the sideline. If they missed that and somehow Washington gets points, I might have felt a little whatever, because it's like you dominated the half and you're going in trailing. But that's not what happened, and they get the fumble and the kickoff and come back down and score again. So, yeah, it really, I mean, nothing is ever given after that last game at the Vet, but when Barkley hit that run, it was like, this is probably not going to be close. And, they delivered. So we got a rematch in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, I said it last week, and like Jason said, I think pretty much all of us, maybe I think Meeker had a little closer, but I mean, Washington is not good, and the fact that they got to the NFC Championship is insane, and the Eagles benefited obviously because Detroit would have been a hell of a game. And Washington, you could say they beat them, but I mean, it's the NFL, one game, so that's what happened. But Washington was not, and we said Daniel's going to have to play out of his mind. I mean, Daniels played okay. Like he didn't do anything. He didn't really do anything anybody else, no other quarterback couldn't do in that game.
He played. He was fine. He wasn't the reason they lost.
Nah, not even close. He didn't do anything wrong. He just was like
right.
nothing
Mhm.
extraordinary.
Yep.
Chalky said the 4th and 5 is a big play. The Eckler fumble too. I mean, they were down 11. With the
Yeah.
ball, it's not like the game's over at that point.
Yeah.
Then the fumble kind of felt a little bit close
Yeah.
to over. Um, so the turnovers again, and the Eagles are what 10-0 in turnovers in
in the
the playoffs.
playoffs. Yeah.
It's
But
it's the reason why they're
Yeah.
winning these games, and it's the reason why they're winning these games like by double digits at the end. And you
and the
know,
one thing they did in this game was that they had struggled at times with the first two was they got
Right.
turnovers, but they weren't putting touchdowns up, and they scored 4 touchdowns off of 4 turnovers. In this
I
game,
think there
even
was like
at the end when Shipley ran for 70 yards and then got
they
it
were like
in.
7 for 7 in the red zone too. It was just like numbers
Yeah.
you've never,
Well,
never,
they
never.
set tied a record for rushing touchdowns in a
Yeah.
championship game. Like it was
Does
it's
does
insane.
anybody know how the because I really wanted to see it, if they would have awarded the Eagles a touchdown on that
So
how does that show in the stat book?
I don't know how it shows in the stat book, but I did see that it did happen once.
Yeah, it didn't happen in the college game where the guy ran off the
It
sideline.
happened in the college game.
Yeah.
Your boy Kyle Brandt tweeted it, or
Oh,
he said it on the Good Day Football or whatever.
yeah, the
NFL
guy
Network
ran
shows.
on the sideline and
It
tackled
was
the
the
guy.
1950 something Cotton Bowl, and the guy ran off the sidelines to tackle a player, and they awarded a touchdown because he would have had a clear field. But that's the only time anybody can find
But
that it
the only
was done.
so that play they probably awarded it to the guy running. I would assume
I
like
I
Let
believe
me
so,
ask you
but
this: Who, when if you fumble in the end zone and like an offensive lineman jumps on it, who gets awarded the touchdown?
I
it's
don't
it's
know.
a rushing touchdown for whoever recovers it.
Is that what it is?
Mhm.
Because this would have been, keep in mind, this is there's no snap. It's not
They
like the ball
probably would
got
have given it
snapped.
to Hurts. They probably
That's
give
what
it.
I thought too.
Yeah.
But it wasn't snapped. He was holding
Yeah.
the ball and there was no snap.
That's the thing.
It's
Without the play being run, I don't know how they
Right.
how they would account for that. Yeah.
So I was rooting for that. I really wanted to see that.
I never
thought
knew.
that-
I mean, again, it is in the rule book, but I had never ever heard of that until of course, Hockley's son's got to be the one that does the the explaining because he's a character like his father. But yeah, I was like, that's really a thing apparently. So I mean, and clearly Lovo, whatever his name is, he's going to be a guy that the city hates for a while because he's a pretty decent player and. Just he clothesline. He gave a flying clothesline to Hurts on the first one. They're like, it's only 5 yards. Like,
Yeah, there's
you can't breathe on Mahomes, and he smashed him in the face coming over the top, and it wasn't even like a intentional. It wasn't even a personal foul and give him a first down, even though they couldn't move the ball. But
Yeah, there's no question that it was intentional. All right, anything else before we touch on the KC Buffalo game?
just if there's another reason to not like Josh Harris, the Sixers were the only Philadelphia team to not tweet congratulations to the Eagles after winning the game. So, yeah.
Was there ever even more of a lock too than the Flyers beating the Devils that the next day?
Yeah.
You knew that.
I know, right?
I don't care that they didn't do it after NFC Championship game. After the Super Bowl, if the Eagles win the Super Bowl, I guarantee they're going to do it.
I'm sure. I will bet that they've done it in the other games where Josh Harris was not the owner of the opposing team. I'd be willing to guarantee that. But whatever. It's just we like to hate Josh Harris. Add it to the list.
That stuff doesn't bother. Again, like if it's me, you win the Super Bowl, or the Phillies win the World Series, or the other two teams will never win, so it doesn't matter. But yeah, and then the other team should congratulate you. But now, like, I don't know, win the championship, and then you get congratulated.
Kick him while he's down. That's my motto.
All right. Well, so then the other game, Buffalo and KC getting typical. I mean, we've seen it all year. KC grinds, and they win one-score games. I would just like to see KC win a game where there isn't at least one controversial officiating call. It's every single game. They outplayed Buffalo. They were the better team, but you still walk away with the game with, but this happened, or but that happened. And these are plays that get reviewed and still are like, I don't understand. It's kind of annoying, and you go through social media, you see it. But KC was a better team. Buffalo, I mean, for all that Joe Brady love, like they go through lulls in the game where they just stop using Allen. They run too much. Their play calling goes like kind of, and they let teams like hang around or stay in games, or they give up the lead. And I thought I saw a little bit of that again against KC too. They're like they just had some drives they completely throw out the window. It looks like. Jason, what's your thoughts with that game?
Yeah, I mean it's a great game, obviously, like you said, but I actually thought they didn't use Cook enough. Like Cook was having a pretty good game, and I don't know, I would have fed him a little more. But great game, Mahomes. It's amazing, and I'm not going to give away one of my bets maybe for next week. But when the playoffs come, Mahomes uses his legs, just does it. And he did it. And actually, every quarterback last week did it. Like every quarterback, their legs were a very important part of every game. That's one thing going back to the Eagles. Everybody was all concerned about Hurts being hurt and this and that. He
Yeah,
showed
there was
no
no.
favoring of the knee on any play. And I bet the wrong thing. I bet him over 40 yards. I should have bet him for touchdowns, but whatever. But anyway, quarterbacks using their legs in the playoffs. Obviously, you have to use your arm too, but it's very effective. Spags blitzes were timely. They were varied, very strong, and obviously, the last play of the game was a great blitz call there. The Chiefs also take care of the ball. So, like the Eagles have been playing these teams that are very lax with the ball. Now the Chiefs did fumble one last week, but I think that was their first fumble in like 500 plays or something crazy like that. So Chiefs are a team that takes care of the ball, so the Eagles are not going to get an advantage there most likely. The Bills kind of got lucky. So, where I said Washington had 3 fumbles and lost them all, the Bills had 4 fumbles and recovered every one of them, which is pretty crazy.
Oh, they also had the first drive. Allen threw the ball right to Kansas City player, and he dropped like
Yeah,
for
the
them.
Bills had some turnover luck in
Yeah,
that game, and they still didn't take advantage of it. So, Chiefs keep winning these one-score games. That's just what they do. They're just, and it's all Mahomes. Well, I shouldn't say it's all Mahomes because you got to give Reed and
no,
Spagnuolo.
I thought he schemed guys. I mean, there was guys running across the field wide
Yeah,
open. I mean,
Reed is just
Buffalo had a
shelling.
tough injury early too. They lost a safety or whatever. That
Yeah,
definitely
the
hurt them.
secondary guy. Yep, yep. So, um, the Chiefs just keep doing it. What else could you say? That's why they've won 2 in a row, and they have a chance to make history.
Yeah, Chalky, your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, I mean the blitz that Spags called is your perfect. We're going to maybe win or lose the game on this call because Allen, if he had another split second, had 3 guys wide open that would have at least gotten the first down. And honestly, Kincaid was open for a touchdown before he had to throw it up for him to come back. But the blitz worked and it got Allen shook and he didn't make those open plays. That's why you gambled like that. But he knows when to dial that up, and that'll be, Hurts has been playing better against the blitz, so it'll be interesting to see what he calls against Hurts next week, because that has been a weakness in his past. So, but yeah, Buffalo was on the wrong side of some calls. I thought Allen had that first down, but it was so close that it's hard to say conclusively. What kind of baffled me was that it was after one of the times they stopped the sneak, and it was Romo and Nance said, "Oh, well, we usually can't talk about this, but when we were in production meetings, the Chiefs said they always go left on the quarterback sneak." If you're that, and Josh Allen is 6'5", he's like Eric Lindros size. I know their line's not as good as the Eagles. Maybe his leg strength isn't, but if you're that predictable and you try to go over the top like he does, like it's a lot easier to stop it than the way the Eagles do it. And how many times did they get stopped on those? And the one play where they were successful, Allen almost lost it because he was reaching it over and hit the ground, and it wasn't a clear recovery.
Well,
But
so in that play, that's why you could go over the top at the goal line because once you cross the goal line,
yeah,
you're in. You go over the top of the middle of the field, and they hold you up before you hit the ground. You're
you're good.
You're
And
live.
you can't pull it back because then it's supposed to be spotted where you pull it back to.
Right, you're live,
Yeah.
so they can knock that ball out while they're holding you
So,
up.
it wasn't a conclusive. It looked like he got it back and then maybe lost it in the pile because I think the Chiefs came out with it and they said it was, first down Buffalo.
Yeah,
But
that was tough.
I mean, it was they had chances to win the game, but they couldn't convert on those short plays. And
Look,
Cook, like Jason was saying, Cook was really successful running the ball, and then he didn't touch the ball on like the last 2 drives. And it's like,
Yeah.
I don't know, but
I mean,
the
Kincaid should have caught that pass too.
he could. He certainly could have for sure.
I mean, it hit him in the hands like this. It's like no.
I was
question.
surprised he didn't catch it. I mean, I know it's like you're not looking for it to come out that way. It was a fluttering ball, but
Well, I think he like kind of gave up on the play a little bit, and then had to like.
It would have been a
react.
really good catch. It would have been a really.
it would have.
good
But it
catch.
was a makeable play.
Yeah,
I mean, it's like a
he
basket
definitely
catch.
could have. He could have caught it.
Yeah, I
could've
think he
caught it.
should have caught it. But nonetheless, Kansas City pulled out another close game, and I mean, Reed always has a good game plan, but at the end of the day, Kansas City's game plan needs to be close in the end, and Mahomes will find a way.
When it's like 4th and 1 or 2 late in the game, and Mahomes is keeping it, he's almost impossible to stop because he's athletic enough to make the play. He knows when he can make the play. He knows when he's got to dump it off to somebody. Like and Reed always has somebody like a
Well, they had that pre-run to seal the game, right?
P-Ryan play. Exactly. Yeah,
I mean, they did stop him. For a field goal to give them Buffalo the chance to come
what
back.
happened? They got sacked or something. Wasn't it a sack?
Yeah,
The first down play was that the drive was over basically.
So,
It was a long. I'm going through the plays now, but
I don't remember.
Yeah, it was long.
It was like 2nd and 15 or 16 or something like that.
Yes, he was sacked on first down and threw 2 incomplete passes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're not going to get into the Super Bowl today. Obviously, next week is going to be the Super Bowl show. But we don't want to ignore that there is that 2 teams that we just talked about are in the Super Bowl. So, you don't got to really give Cook. Chalky brought up something interesting. So, like, this game was played 2 years ago or 2 Super Bowls ago, whatever. I mean, not drastically different teams, but different teams. I mean, the Eagles probably have more changes than Kansas City.
The Eagles are pretty different. Like on
the defensive side of the ball for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, your core pieces on offense are similar for Eagles, with the addition of Barkley, of course.
Yeah.
But Chalky, you kick this off because that those teams versus this teams, that was one of the best Super Bowls we've seen. It was a 3-point game, all that stuff is. Do you see it similar, like the 2 teams together, or are the Eagles better than they were? Are they worse? Or is KC better? Are they worse? Or?
I think this Eagles team is probably a better team than that got there. And the caveat I'll say is this: the offense is, like we said, almost identical. You lost Kelsey, but you gained Barkley, and the line has still played really well. So if those guys are healthy, I think that's more than offset to be a positive for them. The defense is where think about, because remember, coming into that game, the Eagles defense was statistically excellent, and you had a lot of guys that had good numbers and had good careers. But Cox, Joseph, Sue, they were all in their mid to late 30s at that point. So these guys that are in there now are playing well. They might not have 10 sacks like Hargrave had or whatever he had that year, double digits, but they're now like one of the youngest defenses in the league, I think, at this point. So, you look at the way Jalen Carter can change a game by, even if he's not getting the quarterback, by commanding a double team. Chiefs didn't have to deal with that. And I think the linebackers, even with Dean being out, what's his name? Burks has played really well last week and decent enough against LA, I thought. But
Ertz had 87 catches.
Yeah, but he's not a cover guy like that. Like that's I know. And then you go to the defensive. I mean, Kelsey's going to get his against the Eagles. There's no doubt. But go to the defensive backfield. You don't have Marcus Epps. All right, so Blankenship might not be a world beater, but he's better than Marcus Epps. And Bradbury had a good season, but I'll take Quinyon Mitchell. And then in your slot, you had a severely injured Avonte Maddox versus DeJean this year. So I think it's a net positive overall on both sides of the ball for the Eagles. Kansas City, you can say, yeah, maybe they're not as good, but they've won, however many games in a row. So it's hard to say that the team is worse. I think both teams are a little better than they were last time around. So it should be a good game and probably close, but we'll talk about that next week.
Yeah, Jason, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Eagles' defense is much better. The Eagles didn't have a Jalen Carter 2 years ago. They had nobody with the impact of him. I think Vaughn is their best linebacker that I've seen them have in years. And then, Mitchell makes the secondary better. I think Blankenship was the guy who was getting exploited by Ertz.
Possibly,
more
yeah.
So he's a weak link, and that could be a problem against Kelsey. But like I said, the offset is Carter impacts the game. You have a better, Mitchell is better than Bradbury. So defensively, I think the Eagles are better. Offensively, they have Barkley, obviously. I guess the health of Juergens and the other guy, Dickerson, is going to be very important. So, they have 2 weeks to get healthy, so see what happens there. KC, I mean, they probably got more weapons than they had 2 years ago because, you have Hopkins. I mean, he's not what he was, but, at least you have DeAndre Hopkins now. You have a couple of decent receivers. Kelsey probably has lost a step since then, but he's capable of having a big game whenever. So I think it's going to be a good game. I think it'll be similar. I don't know if there'll be as much scoring as last year.
I think both defenses are better than last time.
And
so
keep in mind, I mean, the field was an absolute disgrace.
Yeah,
they're not changing the field in the Superdome, so
you couldn't get pressure on the quarterback because you got to imagine there's going to be like more sacks.
Yeah, you have what I think is Spagnuolo, but Fangio's an upgrade from what they had. So, the concern for me is Spagnuolo having 2 weeks to scheme. And you go back to the game that Hurts had against them 2 years ago, and you wonder if Spagnuolo schemed it up to say, beat me, Hurts. You know what I mean? And Hurts almost did. But I don't know if that was a different Hurts than this Hurts. That Hurts seemed to be a better passer than this Hurts is. So I don't know. I think it's interesting. I think we'll get more into the X's and O's and our picks next week.
I mean, I've seen some of that. They've been playing highlights, obviously, all week, and some of the throws he was making the Super Bowl up until maybe the last game or he looked nothing like that at all this year until.
No, that's what I'm saying. He was a much better quarterback then that I think he is now. But and once that I will give you. So apparently he's out of 43 quarterbacks against pressure this year. He's 43rd. So that could wind up being an issue with Spagnuolo. So,
and the one other thing I forgot to mention on offense, the third receiver doesn't hardly ever touch the ball, but the little guy who's not on the team anymore dropped what would have been probably a touchdown that probably could have put the Eagles ahead for good in that game. And Dotson probably doesn't drop that ball. I can't think of the guy's name now. Who was the guy that the speedster?
The fast guy, Q.
Watkins, right? Quez.
Oh,
Watkins.
Yeah. So, he had it in his hands, and he would have been down the 5-yard line, and instead they punted, I think. But
They also had, that game, you could pick it apart. The Eagles let up had terrible special teams, let up a bad
special teams is better, too.
punt. Elliott's not. That could be.
Elliott is not, but Elliott didn't. That was just actually, and I don't really put a lot of blame on him for it was a 54-yarder or whatever, but that was his first postseason miss of a field goal. He's missed a bunch of extra points, but that was his first postseason. He was 22 for 22 going.
Yeah,
kick.
but I think
this is a different Elliott. You know what
no,
I mean?
I agree.
And I think
agree.
what was his longest field goal in this playoffs? 44 yards.
This year, I'm not sure this year.
I don't think it was very long.
He's hit 50-yarders in the past, obviously, but this year, no, I don't think.
Yeah, I actually think Kansas City's not as good as they were in that year. But I mean, you still got Mahomes. But Jason, you mentioned the receivers. I don't know. I think those receivers are Andy Reid schemes again. Like you go 1-on-1 with any of those guys against Mitchell or Slate, I don't see them getting open unless it's
Yeah,
a
but at least
schematic thing.
Hopkins has the pedigree to maybe be able to make catches and stuff.
And
Yeah,
Brown's got talent, but he was hurt most of the year, so you
He
don't
was
know if
hurt
he's
most
going to
of the
start
year,
going.
yeah.
I mean, Worthy's the X factor. If they can do stuff with getting him moved around, he's quick. So you get him
I
open
still
across the
think
middle, and good night.
that's just Andy. That's just Reid though. I don't think the players. Um, but it don't matter. You got Mahomes. I mean, nothing else matters. I mean, Tampa beat him because he was under pressure and they were missing linemen.
And
And so
their offensive line was decimated for that
yeah,
game.
and
Yeah.
that was the game. Reed's son had that car thing before the night before, 2 nights before. So there's a lot of circumstances in that game. Nah, I mean the Eagles have to go out and win the game. They gotta kind of do what they did in 17 and play an aggressive style. I mean, Hurts made the comment, and I don't know if he was trolling the media but he said they took the straight jacket off or
Yeah.
for me in this game. So it's all for nothing. Like if he throws an interception, he throws an interception. Like this is it. He's got to go out there and make plays. And I look, I use stats where when he throws the ball over 30 yards, his record's good. When defense lets over 30 points, his record's good. So I mean, he's proven that he could do it in the past. Whether it's a different Hurts or not, I mean, we'll see. Whether it's the defense, we'll see. But I mean, he has games that when he has to do it, he has done it. And then lastly, I touched on the Buffalo KC. Do you think the officiating has is that a legit are the Eagles talking about that going into the game
They're going to talk about it to try to get calls, but I don't buy that. It evens out. I mean, do they get a call?
Isn't it like 10 don't in the playoffs isn't it like an astronomical number of unnecessary roughness penalties versus 0 for Kansas City though? I mean,
yeah. I don't think it's something they should be talking about in the locker room. I think just the general concept of play smart, don't put yourself in this situation. Look, I mean, by the letter of the book, the personal foul on, I guess, Barkley was a hair correct, but I mean, I don't know that should have been a penalty, but it's the right call to make.
That was a penalty. He was out of bounds when the guy hit him.
But his foot hadn't hit the ground yet, which was apparently the reason of whatever. I don't know, whatever. Pereira is not always sharp anymore, but I think you got to play smart and try to avoid those positions. Yeah, there was worse calls that they didn't call.
Yeah, I'm talking about the Houston game in general. I mean, roughing the passer wasn't roughing the passer.
Yeah, they're bad calls.
I think it's you got to be aggressive with your using your head. You can't be reckless.
And it's the optics. I mean, that Allen play, the official looking down the line where the ball is marks a first down. The official behind the play comes in and moves the ball back. It's the optics of why is that guy overriding the other guy?
That bothered me more than just the fact that they didn't change the call. It's like the guy who I don't even know how he could have seen where the ball was, but he overruled him to mark it. That's
look what it is. It's not. It's just like Jordan. They're not in a room somewhere saying, "Oh shit, my battery's running low." They're not in a room somewhere.
They're definitely not saying that.
They're not in a room somewhere saying, let's fix this game. But it's the benefit of the doubt. Mahomes gets the calls that Jordan used to get.
Like any superstar is going to get a call here and there, but I mean, to me, that's not why they're.
I mean, sure. If you want to go conspiracy theory, like Kansas City in the Super Bowl is going to be more viewers than Buffalo. There's going to be a lot of people watching either way, but I mean, the storyline 3 in a row, first team to actually get the Super Bowl with a chance to win 3 in a row. Sure, there's more storylines there for KC. I don't think it's a league directive, but it's not a good look on how one-sided they seem to be in a lot of cases.
Yeah, and it's these. I mean, even the one they reviewed with the catch and the interception, it was still a penalty, so it was a first down. None of this, it's not like the drive would have ended. But I mean, they reviewed it. The ball, there was no possession. The ball hits the ground, and it's just like, I don't know. It's just a little. It's the optics are not great, and I think the Eagles will talk about it in the locker room around like, look, we got to take an extra, like, if don't take that one more step just in case. Don't do, Mahomes, he's a soccer player. He knows how to draw penalties, which I would like to see somebody cripple him, but they're not going to
Well, it
do
got me
that.
is
And
like his running touchdowns. Like he's crossing the goal line and throws his shoulder into the defender. Like after the play is technically over. Like that's not. If someone does that to him, that would have been 15 yards. Like he's got a
The only
touchdown.
thing I've talked about it, and I know you have too, but something just beeped. I don't like when he pretends he's going out of bounds and then doesn't. I think that's a little bush league, because then you tell the guys to follow through and play because we're not
and the
doing it.
thing with that is, and in one sense you give him credit for it, but it's not even that he stopped. He has a way, because when he kind of has that funky little run where he like looks like he's like doing but he's moving, but it don't look like it. So he's able to slow down. So as he's getting to the sideline, he kind of slows down where it doesn't.
And then he runs another 10
He
yards.
accelerates and
Well,
sticks the
but then he
ball
does
out
that
and gets
near-
5 yards.
But he does that near it, and then that's how he draws the penalty too. So like Jason's saying, it is all part of it. And I do. I think they said they might bring instant replay assist in for some of those penalties next year.
Next year,
obviously
yeah.
the league is looking at it, but
'Cause
I do. I think the Eagles are cognizant.
Specifically,
of it.
the example was the personal foul that they called on Houston, where the two Houston guys hit each other and not Mahomes in the helmet, and that was a 15-yard penalty.
Okay, that's it. That's it. Now for next week, we'll talk. Yeah, we have our just a quick preview. So we have our Super Bowl show. So obviously we're gonna talk about the game itself, which is a 1.5 point spread right now, I believe.
Mhm.
I don't even know the over under.
48 and a half.
48 and a half.
It opened at 50 and a half. It's now 48 and a half.
Yeah, that's probably about right. The 1.5, I don't know. You think that'll move? You think you'll see movement there?
So I heard somebody interesting talking about that. Like, so if you want to bet the Chiefs, you really should just bet the money line, because there could be an instance, if you think about it, where either team gets the ball in overtime. Say it goes to overtime, and either team gets the ball and goes down and scores a touchdown. The other team now gets the ball, right? Because both teams have to have the ball,
right, yeah.
and goes down and scores a touchdown. Now, if you're that other team, it's sudden death after that. So if you kick an extra point, now I think it's sudden death, right?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. So now, are you going for 2 to try to win the game?
Yeah.
Or do
you keep the game? Do you decide the outcome yourself, one way or the other?
Yeah.
Right. So now, if that's the case, the Chiefs don't cover that. You know what I mean? So now you lose.
I mean, I'll tell you, if I'm Sirianni and I'm in that situation, I'm not giving Mahomes the ball back.
Yeah, I agree.
You
Yeah.
go for 2.
Yeah. You win or lose there.
Yeah, I mean, plus, like, Elliott missing extra points is a legitimate concern.
Yeah.
Not for the overtime, but for, like, if Eagles only being up 2 instead of 3, and Kansas City kicks a field goal and wins by 1. So that that 1.5 definitely can come into play.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know how the line. So yeah, we'll do all that. We'll go through some betting things, and of course, like we always do. But and then last year, I don't remember exactly what we did last year. It was some sort of prop contest. So we'll do it again this year. Prop contest. Basically, you got to make 5 prop bets on DraftKings. Like, it's a DraftKings, so it has to be available on. So you're not like on Bovada where you're betting the Oscars versus this or something.
Right.
So it's got to be a DraftKings playable prop. You get $100. You distribute it however you want. $20, 5 bets at 20. 4 at 10, and what's that leave? 60 for the last one. Any odds? So you could do a minus 450 prop if you want to just hit them and hope that wins it. And the winner will get a free pie from Giovannina.
No buying points if you're Meeker.
No buy. Even though I did once, and obviously I didn't.
Right.
Yeah. So we'll go through them specifically, and hopefully we'll get like some different props, which will cause a discussion too. So something like a quarterback rushing, or What Jason sounded like may have alluded to when he spoke about Mahomes.
I'd like to put a bet on what his bet is going to be because
I'm sure Chalky's
You
going to
don't
get
know.
total
don't
points
know.
in the game versus the WNBA 2008 season versus Madden, some nonsense. But I'm sure Chalky will have that. And Meeker, I can't even venture to guess.
Very Joe Public.
So
Joe Public like picks.
Kelsey anytime touchdown. I'm
Barkley
sure.
anytime touchdown.
Yeah, we'll be there. So yeah, that's always a fun show. So hopefully that's 20 props that we're giving out. Here I'm sure maybe there's one or two that are the same, but basically 20 props. And you'll know if people weight them, which ones are like more. So that'll be fun. And in addition to just kind of picking the game and talking about how the game is going to be. So don't think we have any special guests lined up right now. So it should just be this crew with Meeker. Obviously, if we can get a special guest, we'll bring them on. But yeah, I mean, that's a preview for next week. So stay tuned. Nothing else really going on. Golf season starting up, but that's about it. Anything else from the boys before we end this show?
Nope.
All right, that was episode 144 of Broad Street Hustle NFL Championship Weekend Review. Next week is Super Bowl preview. Have a great night.